Regular meeting of council for Monday, October 2nd to order. I don't think you can start the meeting today without at least expressing our sincere thoughts and prayers to those folks down in Las Vegas and all their families who were so devastatingly impacted by last night's events. And so we want to give our thoughts to them. First order of business this morning, new councillor business. Item 2, Councillor McFadden.
Thank you. I would like to make the motion, whereas Integra Air is a newly established airline providing scheduled passenger service, I move that the landing and terminal fees be waived for the first 6 months of their service. There is some background information, but it's more just information to support the motion.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Javetkov, discussion. Councillor Parslow.
So this is a question through you to Councillor McFadden. So you can assure Council that this does not contravene the community charter, Councillor McFadden?
I don't think so. When I did this, then I'm not sure if we already have this covered partly in the fees and charges bylaws, but I don't think so, Councillor. Perhaps staff would be better equipped to answer that. That's a good question.
Duncan.
So through your worship, as we move through our fees and charges bylaw, we included some language allowing council to do this to ensure that it's fair, it's equitable, and it's not assistance to business. It's applied to any new service operating or beginning operation in Dawson Creek, which fits within the charter and fits within our fees and charges bylaw.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Javetkov, Councillor Rogers.
This is an example of a service that we actually want. Normally when we want a service, we go out and hire it. We pay for it. In this case, it's a service that we want, but it's being provided by private industry. So this here is, it's a token really to help them get established. Because any business, I mean, there's a process that where you build the business up so it's viable. And basically I see this as, it's a token effort. It's a small amount of money in the big picture, and it's a service that we want.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers.
Yeah, it's a service that we want, but it's a service that the taxpayers already subsidized by, I believe it's over $500,000. And I just can't really see why increase that. And also, the subsidy to this business, we also want other businesses to come into town as well. Are we going to start subsidizing them as well? I just think it's just, you're just setting a precedent here, and I can't support it.
Thank you. Further discussion? Councillor Wilbur.
Through you to staff, is this not something that we've done before at the airport for other airlines coming in?
Duncan.
So through your worship, we were looking for the minutes of when exactly this happened, but yes, we have done this in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? I'm going to speak in favor of the motion as well. I think it's really critical service for us, that airline service we're trying to build. And we've heard it from the industry folks and the people, the business people trying to get into Dawson Creek, that the complexities, for them to travel to, when they're coming directly to Dawson Creek, they're traveling to Grand Prairie or Fort St. John, having to rent vehicles, and the time for these folks have made it very clear to me over the last 3 years as the economic development officer, I guess, for the city, as how desperately they've been looking to see if we could find a way to provide this air service to Calgary direct for them. And certainly Integra stepping in. It's going to take them some time to build that awareness of the flight and the service to industry and business and people. So I think this is a way for us to help them ensure they get their themselves established in Dawson Creek for the long-term benefit. So I'm speaking in favor as well. You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Any other new business? Councillor McFadden?
At UBCM, I attended as your voting delegate to the Municipal Insurance Association, and They're in very good financial shape. They took on 1,000 new claims last year, but they closed out 1,200. So financially, they're very sound. I have the financial statement on file. I'll give it to staff if anybody wants to read it. And lastly, this is the 30th anniversary of the Insurance Association, and as a charter member, we received a nice little plaque. So I'll give this to His Worship, and he can lay it up in the archives for the next 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for attending the meeting on our behalf. Anything further?
No, that's it for me.
New councillor business, Councillor Rogers?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I do apologize for not being at the last meeting. Hurricane got in the way and we got transferred. But I do thank council for bringing forward the motion to support the Nordic ski trails through NDIT. And just a little briefing on NDIT, we'd had a regional advisory meeting here recently, and our region, this is the best we've ever done. We only left like $100,000 on the table this year. Some of the grants that went out, whereas of course we get our grant writing support. We have our Love Northern BC Marketing. We get grants for that. Business Facade Program. U17 Hockey Challenge, there was from marketing initiatives that we got money for. 2017 Summer Cruise is a fabulous festivals and events that we receive a grant for. Walter Wright Pioneer Village and the South Peace Motorsports and of course the Bear Mountain Ski Hill and the Nordic Valley Ski Hill. Like, we're doing really, really well. Where we are falling a little bit would be the fabulous festivals and events. We have only 2 groups participating in that. That's $2,500 a year. That's Mile Zero Cruisers that just gotten that last year. And I look at the region and I see, Hudson Hope has four events that they get money for. Look at Dawson Creek. There's so many events that go on in this town, and I can't believe that, I'll say it every time, we gotta get after this money. It's there, it's for our use, it's ours, it's the regions, let's just get it to where it should be, and that's out in the community, creating and generating economic development. That's all I got.
Thank you. And I did run into Joel, CEO of NDIT at UBCM, and we had a great discussion about how we've raised the activity in the city thanks to you in terms of your passion for this. And but the one thing he said is perhaps it'd be worthwhile for him and executive to come do a presentation and absolutely come in and ensure that they help and support us in any way they can. And he was very complimentary of how we've done over the last couple of years, and used the capital budget as an opportunity, as an example for them to be able to ensure that we interact with them and get access to everything that is available to us. So.
Yeah. And the Love Dawson Creek program is doing awesome. I believe the more stickers for the doors have showed up, and there's more businesses. I think that I'd like to have all the businesses in Dawson Creek belong in that program. It's something that I've utilized as I've traveled across British Columbia, like northern BC, and all that. Like even this summer, you go into like New Hazelton or something like that, and you go, okay, where can I go to have a coffee or whatever? And all of that information is there, and it's supporting the local business.
Can you just take off to the side, if you just can make a note of the South Peace Business Directory as a way that we might be able to leverage some funding for that to help us promote that, market that.
That would be the marketing
program, that
initiatives
initiative,
program.
right?
Yeah,
Good
I'll
Thank you.
get that sorted.
Thank you. Anything further? For you under councillor business? Councillor Rogers? Anything further?
No, that's it.
Any other new councillor business? Councillor Wilbur?
Yes, well, as Councillor McFadden also attended UBCM, but I think you have some updates under Mayor's business, so I won't go into in-depth on that. With Love Dawson Creek, yes, the stickers did arrive, and we're getting them out there. I did do some foot pounding the roads in Rolla. So we actually cover Rolla, Toms Lake, and Dawson Creek. So quite a wide area compared to some other communities. But we're getting out there, and people are excited and joining. And some of those members that actually have more than one business are now signing up their other businesses. So obviously they've seen value in the program and want to have them all in there. So that's good. Did talk to Karen a bit while I was down at UBCM about some ideas I have for Love Northern BC. So hopefully those will get rolled out. The other, I believe we're starting our community awards. So that'll start shortly here. We're going to run it online like we did last time. It worked very well. I think the only difference is this time when we award the recipients, we'll invite all of the candidates is the only difference. So I'm just asking colleagues if you have Facebook that you share that and get it out there, and we will we'll award some people and recognize them for the great work they do in our community. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Anything further under councillor business? Thank you. Next item 3, minutes. 3.1, we have the minutes of our public hearing of council of September 11th for adoption. Councillor Rogers, Councillor Schumann. Any errors or omissions? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 3.2, we have the minutes of our regular meeting of council of September 11th for adoption. Councillor Wilbur, Councillor McFadden. Any errors or omissions that anyone noticed? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Is there any business arising out of those minutes? 5.1, we have a memo from the Deputy Director of Corporate Administration regards request for the sponsorship of the Métis Nation of BC Annual General Meeting. It was held a week ago. We did a bit of a survey for council, so this is bring it forward for ratification. So I need a motion. Councillor Wilbur, Councillor McFadden. Discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Councillor Rogers opposed, and you'll...
That's what I did in my email.
Yeah. 5.2, we have a letter from Rick and Judy Loke, September 18th, 2017, requesting a waiver of the walkway policy. Councillor Javetkov?
I'll make a motion that we waive the walkway policy for the purchase of the walkway between 1521 and 1525 113th Avenue. And if we get a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Thank you. Second to Councillor McFadden. Go ahead.
So this walkway, we've talked about it before, and I think we agreed that we should try and dispose of it. It's not required for any city purposes, and we've got an opportunity to basically to sell it to the adjacent landowners, and I think it's in our interests. The alternative is for us to start looking after the maintenance and start spending money on it, which I think is it's preferable to dispose of it. So this gives us an opportunity to help for somebody to purchase these walkways.
Thank you. Duncan?
So through your worship, maybe just some clarification on the walkway policy and what you would be waiving. So the fee set up for the sale of a walkway is set up through the fees and charges bylaw, and it's $500 plus all associated costs, surveying, plan fees, etc. So that fee is in the fees and charges bylaw and can't be waived. The walkways policy, essentially what you would be waiving is any of the public requirements that go along with that policy. So as part of the walkway policy, we speak to the adjacent owners. Often they're offered an option to buy a portion of it. We also look at a petition, and the applicant is responsible for getting a petition from the neighborhood. We also look at some public signage, some information on our website, some information within the community. Essentially, it's a number of public pieces, and that's essentially what you would be waiving is that criterion, that review. But the fees are still standard, and they set the fees and charges.
Thank you. Councillor Rogers and Councillor Schumann?
Yeah, I believe the canvassing of the neighborhood, I think, has already been done, and I think the neighbors had said that that was favorable. Not 100% sure, but I'm about 99% sure. Now, the $500 and all costs, so we're looking at the person that's wishing to purchase the land is going to pay the $500, and I guess it'd be surveying and lawyers, et cetera, for all of that. I know we cannot waive those fees, but is it possible, once the estimate has been done for what the value of that land is worth, that we could possibly take this amount off of the estimated value of the property? Because being the seller, usually you're the one that makes sure that everything's all surveyed and everything else. Is it the seller or the purchaser? In this
Duncan?
case, you have the purchaser.
Duncan, go ahead.
Sorry, so through your worship, I think the intent of the fee and the intent of the policy is to put any cost of purchasing this land back on the applicant and not on the taxpayer. Shelley, are you familiar with the ability to waive a fee based on market value?
Yeah, through your worship, I would not recommend that you do that, just because it could put the whole transaction offside. So I know where you're coming from on the legal adjustments document. I think they'll take care of that, but the actual cost of the transaction, in accordance with the policy, should be borne by the purchaser.
Councillor Schumann.
Yeah, I'm just curious, and if anybody knows this, they can answer for me. Why do they want this waived? I mean, it sounds like a very straightforward process. Why are we waiving this process? Is it just for time, or is it for? I mean, it seems like a pretty straightforward thing to do. You just go through the steps and move forward with it. I'm not sure why we're just disposing of our policy for this instance.
Duncan? So, yeah, just, I'll let you answer first and then I'll address them.
Sure, I was going to pass it on to Kevin to see if or Alex in any of your conversations need that information.
Okay, so, go ahead, Councillor Javeko.
Yeah, just a comment. You know, in a normal transaction, if somebody wants to purchase land, they apply to purchase it and they go through the process. In this instance, I think it's actually switched around. I think we would like to dispose of the land. So when you dispose of the land, I guess protocol and the technical aspect of it, even if you want to dispose of it, somebody has to apply to buy it, but we have an interest in disposing of the land so that we don't have the responsibility of it. So it's kind of a you know, the bylaws and stuff, I mean, the bylaw fits. If we've got a lot that we own and somebody wants to purchase it, they apply to buy it. But in this case, this chunk of land is 10 feet wide by 120 feet long. You can't do anything with it. And we would like to dispose of it because otherwise we have to spend money on looking after it. So it's in the city's interest to get rid of it. So to me, it's a kind of a confusing, the bylaws and stuff, it doesn't fit like normal transactions. So I think if we waive the policy, at least that's a start. Then, you know, when we establish, because you have to go ahead then and establish a value for it, and, you know, that's where I think that we have to start considering, you know, our future liabilities and responsibilities and costs that we may incur. So I think this is a step to start dealing with it. It's not a straightforward process to me that we have.
Councillor Schumann, Councillor Wilbur, then Councillor Parsel.
Okay. I'm just going to be the devil's advocate. So I have one concern with regards to, I understand there's the underground power line, so leaving it open for access to the city, I'm assuming that that's for access for our workers, not the public. Two, that is part of a walkway system that used to go to Tremblay School. So now here's where I'm being the devil's advocate. All of the property behind the alley of this walkway through to the school is all fenced in by property owners. Did we sell all of the walkway to those other property owners? Because at one time that was a walking trail from that neighborhood to get to Tremblay School. So My question then is, as we've been dealing with encroachments and all of that kind of stuff, if we're prepared to sell this, should we also then be looking at all of that trail system that went to Tremblay that people have put their fences across and taken it in as their own property? Because as I see it, if we're going to, and I have no problem selling this to the owner that lives beside it. So if we're going to do this, then to me, we're missing out on taxes that aren't being paid on the rest of that land that is actually city property. So through you to staff, do we know if we have sold the rest of that walkway? Or is this just one piece that is kind of got left and never got fenced in?
So through your worship, I'll ask Kevin.
So through your worship, the walkways that are from the property in question to the south over to 115th Avenue that would link up with Tremblay have not been sold. They're still city-owned. They've just been utilized by the property owners over the years. So, yeah, if you were to close this one, you would have to look at the remaining to see if they're still viable to keep open.
Okay, so then my other question is through you to staff. Was this walkway trail system recognized in our master transportation plan as being a future need for the city?
Yeah, so through your worship, the walkway was identified in the transportation plan and the OCP for future.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Parsley.
Yeah, my concern listening to this discussion isn't so much about the sale of this property, notwithstanding some of the points you've made, is that we seem to be making amendments to our policy on the fly here. And I think it's bad practice to waive policy. I'd rather have policy amended to reflect some of the concerns Councillor Javetkov has raised. So I would like to move that we defer making this decision until we've have the information concerning how the policy might be reworked to incorporate some of the concerns raised by Councillor Javetkov.
So table the motion?
Until we get revised policy to capture some of this stuff, and then we can make a decision also reflecting some of your concerns.
So I have a seconder for the motion, Councillor Wilbur. So a tabling motion is non-debatable. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So, sorry, Mr. Loki, I just want to let you know that the discussion that council have absolutely is the purpose of today, and you can't speak unless the council give you unanimous support or consent to speak. And because of the discussion now, I can't allow that to happen because the motion has been tabled. Thank you. Item 5.3, a letter from the Nordalis Medical Clinic requesting a letter of support from the federal government tax changes. Councillor
I'd
Parsley?
like to move that we receive this information for information.
Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion?
The
Councillor
reason for
Parsley?
making this is I listened to Cross Country Checkup yesterday on this very topic, and I've been following this, and it's not really a matter that is about the governance of our community. So whilst I may be quite empathic to the collection of doctors here, I don't want council to venture into these sort of politically charged events where taking one side or the other. And I quite frankly can't get my head around some of the finer points of this issue that's being debated across the country at this time.
Thank you. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 5.4, I'm going to make the suggestion that 5.4 is going to take a little more discussion than 5 minutes to delegations. And so I'd like to go to delegations first. If our first delegation is here a little bit ahead of our time slot, only because I don't want to cut off a conversation in the middle of that conversation and discussion. So we're going to move to item 6. 6.1 delegations. Our first one is It's our first delegation here. Do we know? Is Brenda?
Brenda's just checking.
Thank you. That's good. Good morning. Welcome. Have a chair.
I'd rather stand if it's
You're all right to stand, but the only thing I'm going to ask you to do, please, is because our council meetings are recorded and televised, and so if you can just make sure that you are close enough to the mic that it picks it up for
I
us.
can sit.
Thank you. You're all right to stand as long as you get to the mic. So it's my pleasure this morning to introduce Teresa Simmons, Dawson Creek residents. I met with Teresa, and I'm assuming your husband?
This is my husband,
Sean, welcome. I met with Teresa about 2 weeks ago. We had a conversation about their concerns in regards to the issue of fentanyl and the drug abuse that occurs in our community and the resulting supporting services for this. And so I suggested it would be absolutely appropriate for Teresa to come this morning and give us a council an overview of their story and their concerns. So welcome. It's good to see you again. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I have a presentation. Perfect.
I'll go sit over by Sean.
And is there a slide change? Which one are you guys? Just checking. So thank you for having me today. Just want to take a minute and introduce myself. So my name is Teresa Simmons, and I live on the Dawson Creek rural area, and I'm a principal at Bonanza School on the Alberta side. So this is my family. So this is my husband, Sean, and my son, Michael, and my daughter, Sydney. This is from 2011. It's an old family picture, and I do have some more updated pictures. This is my daughter, Sydney. She's 9, and my son, Michael, who's 21. And the reason why I'm showing you this is it directly represents and brings about what I'm here to talk about today. Canada Day 2016, last year, we lost our son Michael to an accidental fentanyl overdose. So these are the pictures I get to have of my son now. I have some statistics for you. In Canada last year, 2,816 people died from a drug overdose. Over 900 of those were from BC alone, and this year BC is on track to well surpass those numbers. So it's not slowing down and it's not getting any better. Just to put it into perspective, 2,816 people, that's roughly or close to a little over the population of Chetwynd and about 1.5 times the population of Tumber Ridge. Again, it's not slowing down. This is taken from the official coroner's service report, September 7th, 2017. It just gives you an idea of the drug overdoses from 2007 to 2016. The straight blue line are illicit drug overdoses. As you see, starting in 2011, 2012, the spike from those drug overdoses caused from fentanyl has just spiked, and it is continuing to grow. Dawson Creek alone needs some change, and we come at this from a place where we've had the personal experience in this city, and some of the things that we need to see changed is we'd like to see more services for people who are living with addiction in our community. We'd like to see a private addictions clinic such as a methadone or a Suboxone clinic. I know when my son was in active addiction here in Dawson Creek, there were only a certain number of doctors who could take on patients for a methadone program, and they were full to the brim. So we were driving him every day to Fort St. John for his methadone. I'd like to see also some increase in housing and shelter for people who are living with addiction in our town or our city. That was one of the hardest things when Michael was in active addiction, was, you know, knowing that he was sleeping on the street or he was sleeping under a tree or on a bench. We just don't have the services for people here who are struggling and dealing with this, and I'd like to see that change. I'd also like to see an increase in some support services and counseling for families who are dealing with this crisis. When we went through this last year, there just wasn't anything for families, for people like us to turn to. So I'd like to see that change. I know there are families in our city right now who are dealing with this and who are losing their children too, and I want to see that change so there's support services for them here as well. And most importantly, and this is the main reason why I'm here today, is I'd like to see more education for the public. We need to have more awareness, and we need to have less stigma about mental health and addiction. And I know people understand fentanyl from what they see from the media and what they see from, you know, those kinds of things, but they don't have a real understanding of what fentanyl is and what it's doing to our communities and our country, and how to protect themselves and the ones that they love against this drug. And so I think, you know, I would like to encourage and ask for council to initiate some public awareness education in our community. I'd be willing to help with that, and I'd be willing to put my time and energy towards that as well, but I'd like to see that change for our city. Even simple things like the naloxone kit that is free in Alberta and BC right now. I'd like to see more people carrying them. I know Mayor Bumstead has his now, and so I'd like to see people more training for it and people carrying them, because there are people in our own community who are dying from this. And in the year that we have endured our grief journey so far, I've met people in other mums in Alberta and BC who are losing their children as well, and this is just a handful of them. And I want you to think about, if you think it can't happen to your young child or it can't happen to your adult child, you'll be exactly as we are sadly mistaken. And these are just a few of the children of mums that I've met in the last year. Thank you.
I can't go by without. So we had the discussion, and so I'd just like to give council the opportunity if anybody has any questions for you guys.
So I don't have a question. Thank you for coming. And I'm really sorry for your loss. And I do get emotional over this stuff because one of our children had some drug issues, and we just thank God or whomever that he was able to get out of it before the this fentanyl hit the scene, you know, before it came along. Because I think that I would be exactly in your situation. We just came home from UBCM, and so all of the communities from across BC were there. And this is just not Dawson Creek, it is all of BC, and so many conversations at UBCM centered around this crisis. The last day of UBCM, our premier did speak, and he made several announcements about increasing numbers of beds for mental health and addictions and treatment and housing, different options for housing that I think we'll be trying to look into. And you're absolutely right. We do need to educate the public more. We had a delegation come to council, was it last meeting or the meeting before, just as a let us know, inform us, and get it out to our viewers that do pay attention to our council meetings. I don't know. I get why the people that are addicted end up getting this fentanyl in there, but the young people that are just trying drugs recreationally nowadays, I can't understand for the life of me why they would. It's like playing Russian roulette nowadays. And so I want to thank you for coming, and I'm really hoping that we will see some reduction we will see this turn around. I don't know if it will, but my heart is with you.
So we had a great discussion a few weeks ago. It was very, very helpful in listening to the story of their boy and the family and engaging in our community. And so it is about education. It is about engineering and creating a support mechanism in place for those that are dealing directly with it and the families. And so we really appreciate you guys coming in to give our community a bit of a look at the life of how a family can be so impacted so fast. So we really appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Our next delegation this morning, 6.2, we have Fred Rosebush, Mental Health and Addiction Consumer and Family Advisory Committee in attendance regarding a proclamation for Mental Health Awareness Week for October 2nd to 7th. So if you'd like to come up front first, and we'll do the proclamation, and then we'll give you a chance to come and say a few words. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Morning. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Very good to see you. So it's my pleasure this morning to read the proclamation for Mental Health and Addictions Awareness Week. Whereas the week of October 2nd to 7th has been designated in British Columbia as Mental Health and Addiction Awareness Week, and in recognition thereof, communities throughout the province are actively participating in this event. And whereas the extent of mental health and addictions issues today contributes significantly to wide-ranging and serious problems for many individuals, families, businesses, and communities. And whereas it is desirable that governments at all levels work cooperatively with community groups to increase public awareness concerning mental health and addictions issues and to support and encourage initiatives to promote healthier lifestyles. Now therefore I do hereby proclaim October 2nd to 7th as Mental Health and Addictions Awareness Week in Dawson Creek. And this seems absolutely appropriate to read this proclamation this morning, having just heard from a family who has dealt with this issue in our community. And so I really want to express our appreciation to you guys for the work that you've done and continue to do on behalf of our community. Thank you. And so you're welcome to take the seat, or if you'd like to do it from here, you're welcome to do whatever you feel more comfortable.
I'll sit down.
All right, perfect.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's a blessing to be here. Just looking for my glasses. Okay, we've just got a little, some words we'd like to share. Your path to mental well-being. We all want to be healthy and happy. No one can be truly healthy without positive mental health. It involves how we feel, think, act, and interact with the world around us. Mental health is about coping with the normal stresses of life and making a contribution to our community. Ask for help or seek advice from a professional. Give your mental health the attention it needs and deserves. Your path to mental well-being. Positive mental health isn't about avoiding problems or trying to achieve a perfect life. It's about living well and having the tools to cope with difficult situations even during life's challenges. Each person's path to mental well-being is unique. We all have our own goals and our challenges, our own talents and our own supports. But positive mental health is within everyone's reach. Staying mentally healthy is like staying physically fit. It requires effort, but the rewards are worth it. Everyone has to face stresses and demands, but we all make needs and deserve breaks. Daily physical exercise, for instance, not only makes you stronger and more fit, but it also improves your mood and your sense of well-being. The 66th Canadian Mental Health Awareness Week will be louder than ever before. Get ready to lift up your mental health megaphone. This year, our focus is on ending wait times for mental health care because too many Canadians are on standby for the care and services they need. As we get ready, there are many ways to add your voice. We are asking the city to proclaim Mental Health Awareness Week from October 1st to the 7th, 2017. And we are conducting an awareness walk on Tuesday, October 3rd at 10 a.m. from the On Our Own Drop-In Center, at which time we'll be walking through Kin Park and back up around. And for the Dawson Creek in memory of people with mental health, we will have pizza and cake at On Our Own after the walk. So please feel free to join us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for coming in this morning. Thank you. Our next delegation this morning, 6.3, is Nikki Hedges, United Way of Northern BC, in attendance for United Way of Northern BC proclamation. Good morning. Good morning, welcome. Nice to see you. Welcome to Dawson Creek. Whereas the United Way Northern BC contributes to the health, safety, and well-being of Northern BC communities by investing in programs and services that ensure people who are struggling to get back on their feet, that people get healthy and stay healthy, both physically and mentally, and that kids get the education and opportunities they deserve. And whereas the United Way improves lives and builds community by engaging individuals and mobilizing collective action, now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim October 2017 as United Way Month in Dawson Creek. I'm going to do this signature. Obviously, the United Way needs really no introduction. It's an amazing organization that's done amazing work throughout our province and our country, I think. And so it's a real pleasure to have you here this morning and to be able to do this proclamation. Thank you for all the work on behalf of our community and our residents for helping build our community. Thank you.
Can you pose for a picture nicely and smile at me?
Give her a camera, she gets bossy.
Absolutely. Now, if you take the delegation table, I'd love to have you do it.
So thank you very much. That was a great pleasure to be back again. It's been, I think, about 5 years since I first presented here. So I've been with United Way for almost 7 years now. And so my job is community development and campaign. I run events and a whole bunch of other things. I'm back to running the whole Northeast region. So you were familiar with Emily. But we've been restructuring, so United Way of Northern BC, I'm your main contact and liaison from here. There's a couple of things that I think that I just wanted to make very clear. One of the greatest challenges, I think, for United Way of Northern BC is often we're lumped in as United Way, and there is an email that is circulated since 2005 that talks about some CEO that gets paid huge amounts of money and money must be disappearing to some offshore account, or I don't know what the story is, but it really is absolutely false. Another misconception is that, perception. Is that our overhead costs are, hardly any money ever gets to the programs. Our overhead costs are the lowest in the country. It's 10%. And the work that we do in the communities outside of what we fund outshines that cost. So there's additional work that is done in all of the communities. So I just really want to sort of help people understand that in partnering with United Way, it's the greatest way in order to get money to where it is most needed. And it was really interesting for me to come and visit today to also hear about some of the real challenges that communities are faced with. Could United Way of Northern BC be doing more for Dawson Creek? And we heard some good examples today. That I think that is another piece that I want to talk about, is that United Way can be part of your conversations. How can we work with you to better steer investments and funding? And just on that note, it's about coming together collectively. So just this piece here, sorry for the audience, but it's about collectively coming together. This is your community, and people begin to understand that by everybody coming on board in some way or another, we can further boost programs and services in Dawson Creek. United Way is one of the strongest vehicles in which to do that. So as I said, can we be doing more? Yes, we can. There's I emailed a list of, I hope you've got a copy of the programs that we fund in this community. Yep. It's grown, our impact has grown in this community, but we can't do it without engagement. As a charity of choice, donors are helping to support their community and what matters to you the most. I'm going to leave some of my cards here. I'd love for you to contact me and let's get together and let's really talk about some of those needs. There are United Ways across Canada, of course. You're familiar with that heading. And each chapter is separately governed, all right? We're more than just funders of programs, and we really do invest in addressing important issues and critical needs in northern communities, including poverty, hunger, early educational programs, as it was highlighted there. We address seniors' isolation and so much more. So, we just want you to know that your donation is an effective way to support worthwhile programs. And I would also like to ask the City of Dawson Creek if they would consider just giving employees of the City of Dawson Creek and others an opportunity to donate to United Way, to things that matter to them. So we are appealing to all of the municipalities, cities, etc., to maybe consider coming on board with United Way on that level so that we can have even greater impact in your community. So with your permission, I'll leave some pledge forms, and our campaign is running all the way through to the end of December. And we are finding that more and more are coming on board with us, being led by Prince George. So I'd just like to say thank you so much for letting me come today and for the proclamation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and if you leave that material with our administration, they'll move it out through. So, Nick, thank you so much for coming this morning and attending and giving us an update on United Way, and
Thank you.
sincerely appreciate all the work.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. Our next delegation, 6.4, we have Tina Hill, the team leader from the Ministry of Children and Family Development, in attendance regarding our Foster Family Month in BC proclamation.
You got it?
Good morning, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you. Good to see you. How are you? Good to see you. Good morning, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. Come up front and we'll read this proclamation. Whereas thousands of British Columbia foster families provide alternate family care for children temporarily unable to live with their families. And whereas foster families are an integral and valued part of the team of public and private professionals serving the families and children of British Columbia. And whereas foster families are asked to provide emotional support and care for children who will eventually return to their own family. And whereas fostering is a community responsibility and foster families build stronger communities. And whereas the City of Dawson Creek wishes to recognize the care, compassion, and unselfish commitment of foster families within its boundaries and surrounding areas, now therefore I do hereby proclaim the month of October as Foster Family Month in Dawson Creek. So again, every year this kind of hits to me in terms of the work that the foster families do to provide a home for these babies. There are babies no matter what their age, and so for you guys, the work providing a home for these children is unbelievable, but the support that these are given, and we just want to express our really sincere appreciation to all the foster families that are operating in our region, our city, and our province, because it is critical for babies to have a home. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I just also wanted to add that we do service the Dawson Creek, Chetwynd, Tumbler Ridge, and Hudson Cove area, and we have a really great group of foster families, and we're always looking to add to that. So if you hear of anybody that's interested in being a foster parent, just send them to the Ministry of Children and Family Development, and no pressure, and we can talk to them and walk them through that process if they'd like to go through that process.
And thank you so much, again, on behalf of all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you next year.
See you next year.
Thank you for coming.
Good seeing you.
Yeah, you too.
Item 6.5, we have Karen Mason-Bennett from NEAT and Lindsay Heel from Recycling in attendance regarding Waste Reduction Week and Month proclamation. Okay, no problem. Good morning, good morning. Welcome. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Morning, Peter. Good morning. Whereas Waste Reduction Week is an annual Canadian event that encourages the reduction of waste in Canadian homes, organizations, communities, and municipalities across Canada, who pull together to raise awareness of waste reduction strategies. And whereas as a municipality we are committed to reducing our waste, conserving resources, and educating our community about sustainable living. We recognize the generation of solid waste and the needless waste of resources as global environmental problems and endeavor to take the lead in our community toward environmental sustainability. And whereas each year Waste Reduction Week highlights a specific aspect of waste reduction, and this year the City of Dawson Creek will go further by supporting pretty to include the month of October as Waste Reduction Month. Now therefore, I do hereby proclaim October 16th to 22nd, 2017 as Waste Reduction Week and October as Waste Reduction Month in Dawson Creek.
Yay.
Thank you so much for coming in this morning, and Peter, thanks for coming in and supporting the message. It's a great message, and obviously all of us for community and our own individual homes and finding ways to be more responsible with waste reduction is a great message. So thank you for doing that, and thanks for coming in.
Actually, a few words, and then thank you for mentioning your own homes. Actually, we're offering free testing of food cyclers to the mayor and council. And if you'll see this sustainability clerk, she'll actually give you your cycles, and you'll test them for the month of October. And also, MEAT is offering a free waste assessment for the city of Dawson Creek, which we also did for you a number of years ago.
So as a side note to that, why I said personally, because my bride and I took the initiative to attend the composting seminar that was put on earlier this year, and started to get very involved in composting. And it was really a fun way for us this year to understand and learn about composting for our own home. I found it very good. So I'm happy. I know Melanie had talked about that in terms of the home recycling, so we're looking forward to it, and welcome council, all of them, to have the opportunity to give it a try.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in this morning. It was good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Composter, but it actually composts in 3 hours.
6.6 is our next delegation. We have Stephanie Goody and Ellen Dabrowski from the Dawson Creek Pride Society in attendance regarding the annual Pride Week proclamation and request to fly the rainbow flag at City Hall. Good morning. Welcome. Welcome. Good to see you. Nice to see you. Come up. Good to have you here this morning.
Thank you.
Whereas the City of Dawson Creek acknowledges the importance of inclusion and diversity in our community, and whereas gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, transsexual, queer, and questioning community members all contribute to Dawson Creek, a place we call home. And whereas it is important to celebrate the diversity of the community, now therefore I do hereby proclaim October 20th to 22nd as Pride Week in Dawson Creek. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you for coming in this morning.
Thank you
We
very
appreciate it, and your floor is yours.
I just wanted to invite everyone out. We will be having Pride Weekend, as we said, the 20th to the 22nd. We'll be showing Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Calvin Creek Center on Friday night. And on the Saturday night will be our 12th annual celebration that we do. It's a dance with a performance. Tickets are $20, and hope to see everyone there.
Great. Thank you so much. Again, thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
There was also a request with that to fly the rainbow flag at City Hall. Will that be coming up under Mayor's
I'll bring it back under Mayor's business.
Thank you.
So we have a 6-7, we have a presentation. Hunter Gleason from the University of Northern BC in attendance regarding a presentation on springtime flow at the Kiskatna. Sure. Good morning. Welcome.
What did you say?
So the delegation table is there for you, Hunter, and you're going to do a presentation for us, I understand? Perfect.
So, Mayor, Council, I'll just briefly introduce Hunter. He's a UNBC student who did his master's research project on the Kiskatna watershed and on runoff and springtime flows. So it's a partnership with the city, UNBC, and Flint Rock. So this is just kind of an opportunity for him to share a bit of the good work that he did on the project. Just get in front of council and see what we found out about the watersheds.
Perfect. Well, thank you for coming this morning, Hunter. It's
Yeah.
good to have you here
No,
and
it's
do the presentation. It is recorded, so we just ask if you can get the microphone for everybody so they
Okay.
can pick it up.
Yeah.
So the floor is yours.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for coming out. Just want to present briefly on the research that I've been doing with the University of British Columbia and looking at springtime runoff, forecasting springtime runoff on there in the Scotland watershed. So, briefly give you some background on myself, some of the research objectives involved in the project, some weather patterns that are kind of pertinent to the approach I took, briefly explain the model, as well as show some example results and kind of focus on how this will hopefully be of benefit to the city of Dawson Creek. So a bit about me, I actually grew up in southwest Colorado. It's pretty arid there, and I realized fairly early on kind of the importance of water and lots of course, in the environment and society as well as in the economy. Went to Colorado State University in Fort Collins and got a bachelor's in market science and worked as a field technician for several years after that. And that really got me interested in pursuing some research of my own and led to this opportunity up here at UNBC and also with the city of Dawson Creek. So you guys are probably fairly familiar, but so the Scotland watershed, it's been supplying water for the city for over 60 years. Primary source of municipal water here, and it's about 300,000 hectares, and it's snowmelt dominated, so there's no glaciers within the basin, so snow melts and springtime or summer rains are the primary inputs. This is a map of the Scotland watershed. At Eris, where the city withdraws water, is the red circle, and then Farmington is the Water Survey Canada gauge downstream, and there's discharge data back to 1944 there. There's been a number of studies in this Kiskatna, one of them being carried out by the Forest Practice Board in 2011, and some of the interesting findings of that study were reduced flows and earlier peak flows in response to spring melt by about 40% about 9 days earlier, as well as increased variability and reduced low flows come August into October. So the city's interested in light of that, having some tool that can provide indications of water volumes and timing in response to spring melt, and that was kind of one of the primary goals of my research was to come up with a methodology to help provide some idea of the springtime runoff response and hopefully lend some insight into some of the climate patterns that might be influencing that. One of the issues the city does have is when turbidity or suspended sediments get too high, they can't always operate their pumps. So that's also something the city is interested in, is having some idea of what the associated turbidity levels would be. So operational forecasting, of course, you have your inputs, snow and spring and summer rainfall. In January, you have some idea of how much water is going to be held in the snow, but come April 1st, you have pretty much know how much water is held up in the snowpack, but you still have some uncertainty associated with spring and summer rainfall. One study by Moore and McKendry that influenced the project that I did in my research was looking at synoptic weather patterns that kind of dominate over BC during the wintertime, and finding these three dominant patterns, and then for these physiographic regions, they looked at basically anomalies in the water, or snow water equivalent, so how much water is retained in the snow April 1st, and correlated the frequency of those different patterns with these anomalies in sweep, which led me to look if using climate data with and nearby BC could be correlated with the timing and volume of runoff sufficiently in the Cascatna to make springtime predictions. So using climate data aggregated over the winter accumulation period, so cumulative precipitation, mean temperature at various weather stations and snow survey locations in BC and basically within synoptic reach of the Cascatna watershed. I would take those inputs over the winter and then using a multiple regression correlate it with timing and volume to make the actual runoff predictions. I won't go too much into the details there, but so for any timing, you basically predict the cumulative runoff curve using these weather inputs. And so for any, so the R50 would be the day of year that 50% of cumulative discharge over that period is reached, for instance. So you decide on a model based on some criteria that will do that, and then because it's a multiple regression model, you can look at past years. So usually we'll have about 15 years of observations. In this case, this is predicting the total. So I have 25 observations, and you can look at, for each prediction, how far it was off the observed. So you can say, okay, for any prediction, plus or minus 10,000 hectometers of volume for, in this instance, the total. And from that, you can basically generate a curve like this. So it's cumulative. It's basically a cumulative discharge curve. But what's helpful, so in the red line, that center red line there is the observed cumulative discharge, whereas the green line with the dots is kind of the best prediction from the model. And you can see it does a decent job at predicting. So, and then days on the bottom there is days since September 1st. It's helpful to kind of define the year from September 1st instead of January 1st, so that's why those are in ingredients there. But what's helpful is with any given prediction, you can see, you can look at the past years to say, okay, the total might be this, plus or minus 10,000, and the hope is that the city can take that and use it to help make water resource decisions based on the risks involved. So that might be, you can accept the green cumulative curve if as kind of the most likely scenario, but if you're worried about not having enough, you might accept that minimum volume curve, and you can do the same thing with the timing. So I'm hoping that that will provide the city with some tool to kind of and then also with that, if you look at, there's been turbidity measured at Eris for since at least 1996. They put a new sensor in, I think, in 2007. So this is from 2007 on. But if you look at the relation between discharge and turbidity, it generally increases. So you generally get more sediments with increasing discharge in the Cascatna. And then using a method like logistic regression, you can input these predicted discharges and then get some probability of exceeding basically these thresholds of sediment loads that require the city to shut down their pumps. And then the end result will be something like that looks like this, essentially a hydrograph from April 1st until the end of June that the city can use to make water resource decisions. So that blue line is kind of that average prediction that I showed you on those cumulative charts. The black is the observed discharge. And then what's helpful about this model is you get some idea of the uncertainty around that prediction as far as, and that's based on past year's observations. And then, yeah, so I envision the city being able to take a forecast like this along with other inputs and present it to water management decision makers, the city, and then hopefully be able to use it to make risk-based decisions. But yeah, that's all I have. A couple links to Stephen Deering, my advisor, and Richard Cabazins, John Rex, and Vanessa Ford with Flinro, Chelsea Matasa, and Local Water Research Center, and to the City of Dawson Creek financial support, and BC Ministry of Forest, Lands, and Natural Resource Operations.
Councillor Barzal. We have a question, Councillor
Yeah.
Barzal.
Well, thank you. I love reports like this. I find them very interesting. It's I think actually I went to a session at UBCM. It was understanding the Water Sustainability Act, and I told our CAO it seems that part of that act is each water jurisdiction needs to have a plan concerning how it deals with drought.
Yeah.
And this seems to be an element that could be part of our planning, as well as our OCP should have in it how the community improves its capacity to deal with drought. So this fits in nicely, I think, to the new Water Sustainability Act.
Yeah, no, hopefully it will be a useful tool as far as, some indication of the springtime volumes that will be involved and some of the uncertainty around it, which is really helpful. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Appreciate it.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming in. And obviously, the watershed for us is a critical component of foundation of communities. So, any information, any data, any of the analytics we get that help us make really good informed decisions, obviously, are helpful. So, thank you for taking on the task of doing some work on it.
Yeah, no, thanks. Appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And our final delegation this morning, we have Sally Shields from the Sunrise Rotary Club, Donna Kane from the Peace Liard Regional Arts Council, Joe Hauber from the Noon Rotary Club, requesting a letter of support for the Memory Forest Legacy Project. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome. Good to see you guys. Nice to have you here.
Yes.
Floor is yours.
Okay. Through your worship, I'm Donna Kane, as I'm sure most of you know, because I have been here for the past couple of years working on the Emergence public art sculpture, which I think was a great success, and I'm really excited to be part of this proposed project, and I'd just like to thank Mayor and Council for considering a letter of support for the project. One of the things the Regional Arts Council, our main mandate is to broaden opportunities for artists and community members, and I think that anytime we can work with the city and other community groups, it just helps build a richer community for everybody. So I think you guys have the copy of the project.
Yes.
So any questions?
Great. So, any questions for delegation? So, obviously, we appreciate you guys coming in this morning and raising this as another opportunity for us to consider and look at for a legacy project. And you mentioned the Trencher project that's turned into a really terrific piece of public art for us. And so we will bring it back to Mayor's business, and Council will give it the consideration. So thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. So we'll now take a 7-minute break and resume shortly. We'll call ourselves now
There's nowhere to buy
back to
photo
order.
shirts.
We've dealt with our delegations. We're back into our regular council meeting, and we're at item 5.4. Councillor Parslow?
I'd like to move that we table discussion on this item until after we have conducted our closed meeting.
Thank you.
Because there's an item that relates to it.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Or it's tabled, so all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. We're moving now to reports, item 7. We have report number 17149 from the Recreation Manager regarding leased spaces in arenas.
Now what is it doing? I've totally messed it up. Sakes.
Councillor Parslow?
I move that report 17-149 from the Recreation Manager release spaces in arenas be received. Further, the lease agreements between the City of Dawson Creek and the following arena user groups be approved for a 1-year term commencing on July the 1st, 2017 and ending on June the 30th, 2018. Based on the fee schedule and the agreement template attached to this report. Mile to Zero Figure Skating Club, Speed Skating, Junior Canucks, Senior Canucks, Minor Hockey, Blazers Hockey Club, KFC Old Posts, Dawson Creek Old Timers, Dawson Creek Alumni.
Second to Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? So I just want to raise one comment of my own. I think, honestly, the having these expire next year, I wouldn't want these to get caught up into any kind of a discussion or interaction next year in our, and I don't know why they would, but next year come election cycle. I wouldn't want them to become a controversial item for folks within the election. And it's going to happen in the, if it ends in June, it's going to probably come back in either, I would assume, in July. Duncan?
So through your worship, we can bring that forward earlier. One of the main reasons for the 1 year is Brenda's currently working on a template for all leases within the city, and we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. If council's okay with the existing leases, we can extend that date.
Yeah. That's the only thing, right? In fairness, you've got these groups that have been in there for long-term, long-standing arrangements and agreements, and I wouldn't want them to become a controversial for them or for folks in terms of having that pop up in July, August timeframe as it might become controversial. And that's the only thing I'm concerned about. Duncan?
Barry has one comment.
Barry?
So, for sure, through your worship and council, we have, through Shantae, an extremely strong working relationship with those groups. And that was one of the concerns that came up. They're totally understanding of the template and how we're trying to move that forward with flexibility. Shantae has already talked to those groups, and we'll be meeting with them after council process to have a bigger picture discussion. We see no issues with those.
Okay.
They're long-standing groups. And, the community and the environment will be great. And it seems to be very good. No argument on this.
And my other point is, I think, to me, I'd really like to see these come through as a 4-year term, and then that way councils get to be able to have an opportunity at considering them through their term, but we don't want them coming back on a regular basis. I certainly don't see a reason for them to be coming back. But every council should be given the opportunity to review them. But if you do it through a 4-year cycle, perhaps at the mid-year term of a council, then they get the opportunity to review them and see them and consider them, but not so that they're coming back on a regular basis to council. That's just a thought. I was just thinking.
That's good thinking. Good thinking.
I've been doing some thinking about it. So we're going to accept this motion, then we move forward and bring it back for next June. Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Now you got us thinking.
Don't do too much of it.
My manager should always hate it when I go driving because I had 4 hours to do some thinking. 7.2, we have a report number 17150 from the project manager regarding quotations for the Friesen subdivision sewer connection. Councillor Roger?
Move that report number 17-150 from the project manager regarding the request for quotations 2017-41 Friesen subdivision sewer connection be received. Further, that council award RFQ 2017-41 Friesen subdivision sewer connection to G. Bomeister Limited for $438,209 plus GST.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Schumann, discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.3, we have report 17151 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding Council Remuneration Committee.
I'd move it, but my agenda won't even load anymore.
I've got it.
Councillor Wilbur?
I'll move that report number 17-151 from the Director of Corporate Administration regarding the Council Remuneration Committee be received for information.
Good second.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor McFadden, discussion? Councillor Wilbur?
I just want to thank the people who've let their names stand to be on the committee. That's very gracious of them, and taking on a task that can be uncomfortable at times. So I just want to thank the people that let their names stand.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I want to speak in favor of it. I didn't get a chance to when it was in August, and I believe that what we always do is policy and governance, and policy in this case is the policy for council remuneration is either allows people to step forward and sit on council or mayor or not. And for some people who are giving up a couple of days work every month that you guys do on every second Monday when you're asked to come and sit at council, and all the other associated work and energy that goes onto it. And I think people, unless people walk a mile in your shoes, they wouldn't have the understanding of how much time it does take and how much we give to this. And for family that may be working every week and can't afford to give up a day's pay or 2 days of vacation every month to come and sit at council and all the other things, I think it's something that needs to be addressed on behalf of allowing a wider demographics of our community to be able to serve on council. And the policy that we set allows us to do that. I think this process, by having people in our community, business people and residents in our community to help serve on this committee, gives that input into it, because it's a tough thing where we're always sitting here deciding on council remuneration. So I think it's a very timely and appropriate work to do. Any further work, any further conversation, discussion, comments? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. 7.4, we have our RFP for our recreation software program, report number 17153. Councillor Parslow?
I move the report 17153 from the Recreation Manager, the RFP 2017-33, supply and implementation of recreation management software be received. Further, the RFP number 2017-033 be awarded to Legend Recreation Software Incorporated with a bid of $51,722.93, including GST.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Javetkov. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. Report 7.5. We have report 17154 from the Parks and Facilities Manager regarding an invitation to bid for the RCMP detachment renovation. Councillor Rogers?
Move the report number 17-154 from the Parks and Facilities Manager regarding invitation for bids 2017-39 RCMP detachment renovation be received. Further, the council award the invitation for bids numbers 2017-39 RCMP detachment renovations to WL Construction at the bid price of $80,308, pending the successful completion of the security reliability clearance process.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor McFadden. Discussion? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. 7.6, we have report 17155 from the Development Services Manager regarding our water line upgrade along Alaska Highway. Councillor Javetkov?
Move that report number 17-155 from the Development Service Manager re-water line upgrade Alaska Highway be received Further, that the city reallocate $127,077.13 from the Water Utility Fund operating surplus to fund the upgrade from a 6-inch to an 8-inch water line along a portion of Alaska Highway.
Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion? Councillor Parslow?
Apart from the LP project, I mean, I think this is the correct way to go, thinking future expansion. We won't have to replace it again.
And absolutely, I think the LP project spurred it along, and they said we need 6, and infrastructure said, look, if we're going to do that, let's put an 8 in, and then we got sufficient flow for future development. It just really made great sense for us to partner with LP and being able to get that development underway, which is critically important. And so I agree. I think it's a great decision and great move.
Perfect opportunity.
Yeah. Further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 7.7. We have report 17157 from the Deputy Chief Financial Officer regarding our 2017 tax sale results. Councillor Wilbur?
I'll move that report number 17-157 from the Deputy Chief Financial Officer regarding the 2017 tax sale results be received for information.
Thank you. Seconded. Councillor Parslow. Discussion? Shelley, is this a kind of a norm? It looked like a low tax sale to me.
Yeah, through your worship, it's a really good news story. It's the lowest tax sale that we've had at the city since I've been here. The lowest number of properties, the lowest number or the lowest value of properties, so it's really good. And it's a great indicator going forward that taxes are still affordable and people are paying their taxes, so definitely a good news story.
Yeah, it seemed like it to me when I looked at it, and I didn't go back on the history of them, but to see 4 properties and a minimal amount of value, it seemed like it was pretty low to me. But Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, I just have a question about this is related to the topic in general. When somebody puts in a bid for one of these properties, they must put a deposit. Is that right, on the bid?
Through your worship, no, they have to pay the full amount.
They have to pay the full amount. And then if they're not successful, because it's either the taxes are paid, they get interest on that money. Is that right?
Yeah, through your worship. So the way it works is the property goes up for sale. The highest bidder gets the property. They have to come in and pay by cash, Interact, certified check. If that goes through, it's theirs. If it doesn't go through, then somebody else can bid at it at a 1 o'clock tax sale. Okay? Then the person that owns the property has a year to redeem it, plus the interest that is paid to the person or company that purchased it. So, yes, they have to pay interest, and the person that buys it gets interest.
Last question. That interest rate, how is that set?
That is set through legislation, and it's 6.5%.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Javetkov?
Just a question on the number of properties that were sold. There were quite a few more than just 4, right, on the tax sale notice? Or was there just 4?
Through your worship, I think what you're asking is where did we start? We had about 40 properties, I think, when they start the process, and then through the notifications that this is going up for sale. Basically, people come in, make arrangements, and we're left with 4 that actually go to auction.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you, Shelley. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. On to item 8, bylaws. 8.1, our soil regulation bylaw number 4343 for consideration of adoption. Councillor Schumann moved. Councillor Javetkov second. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 8.2, the appointment of our officers amendment bylaw number 4349 for adoption. Councillor Parslow, Councillor Rogers. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. 17152 from the Development Services Manager regarding our OCP and zoning amendment bylaw for 620 106th Avenue. Councillor Schumann.
Move report number 16123 from the Development Service Manager regarding the OCP Amendment 1702, bylaw number 4361, and zoning amendment 1704, bylaw number 4362 be received. Further, that OCP Amendment 1702, bylaw number 4361, and zoning amendment 1704, bylaw number 4362, redesignating 620 106th Avenue from industrial to mixed use, and rezoning the same from M2 light industrial to RS2 residential single and duplex family be given first and second readings, and further that staff be directed to publish the required notice for formal public consultation and hearing.
Thank you. Second to Councillor Wilbur. Discussion? Councillor Javetkov.
Over the years, there's been a few of these properties that have come up for rezoning in that area. And my understanding was that originally, or I don't know about originally, but at some point in time, it was determined that that area would be converted over time to industrial or light industrial or commercial. I'm just wondering if the, and I don't know what the OCP said, the current one, I haven't seen the final results on it, but rather than deal with these, you know, one lot at a time, maybe it's time to look at that whole area and decide, you know, is it realistic that it is going to be converted to industrial, or should we be rezoning it back to residential? Rather than go one lot at a time, maybe it's time to look at the whole area. Because I know this has come up before. There's been individual ones, and some we've approved and some we haven't. So it's not consistent. Our approach isn't consistent. Maybe that's because we don't, you know, we have different councils, but.
Thank you. Duncan?
Through your worship, I'll just ask Kevin to talk a little bit about that area.
Yeah, so through your worship, that's exactly what we're doing within the OCP. Over the last few years in that area and a few other areas, we've had these arise. And so all that, those requests and that information has gone into the process of developing the new updated OCP. So you're right, some of the older planning documents had shown that area as industrial, but you know that nowadays I don't think that's probably what the community wants to see. So I think you'll probably see something proposed that's probably some sort of a mixed use in that area, commercial residential, because that's really, you know, what you're seeing anyways. So we're certainly moving that way. We're going to try and address it on a broader scale as opposed to the one-off. This particular one, and the reason we are moving this one is because of the belief of where we're headed with the bigger picture. And I think this one had some time constraints and issues. So we were just trying to help this resident out rather than making him wait until, you know, end of year when we finalize the OCP and we go through that process, because we believe that's the direction we're heading.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Javetkov?
Yeah, I agree that, like, it lends itself more to commercial residential than industrial. I mean, maybe, you know, in the 60s it could have been considered industrial, but, you know, with the industrial areas that we've got developed, and, you know, it just seems to make sense. So hopefully that's
good.
Will work out.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments, questions? Ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Item 9, Mayor's business. And so I want to start with the first item. And as was mentioned earlier today, we had the Trencher public art. And so there were small pieces of individual pieces of art that came as a result of that, as a memento of it, and so we have that, and we'll display that in our case out at the front as a piece of the contribution that the city made to the public art at the Trencher, at the NER Park. Along the same line, we unveiled the chainsaw carving at the airport a few weeks ago, and And the Village of Chetwynd, District of Chetwynd, donated another piece of art, chainsaw carving, to the city. We put it out at the airport in the center of the parking lot when you first come in. It's a horsefly.
It is a horsefly.
It's a horsefly.
Carved by Ryan
But
Cook.
Ryan Cook was the artist, the chainsaw carver that carved this particular item, and so we've got it set up out at the airport, and it's a very, very cool addition to that parking lot, and it's another way for Chetwynd to kind of get that chainsaw art out into the region, and I know a number of communities in the Peaceful Regional District have been receiving them, and I think it's a great way for us to demonstrate the art, and helps kind of beautify certainly does add to the airport parking lot. And we were out there on the weekend when we flew home and got some comments from folks as well. So real nice gesture on behalf of the District of Chetwynd. 2 weeks ago, BC Lottery Corporation were in town, and they were hosting an open house at Chances at the casino. I attended, and on behalf of council, and they just wanted to give a little message about paying it forward in terms of the benefits of community, in terms of the BC Lottery Corporation and the gaming revenue that comes back into a community. And I think for our community, it's $700,000 or $800,000. It was probably down a little bit last year, about 600 maybe, but normally it's around that 700,000, 800,000, 900,000. And so BC Lottery Corporation are just doing a little bit of a show talking about the benefits of the Lottery Corporation and communities, and how much money they give back into our communities for our communities to help build communities. So appreciated the opportunity to attend. Week before last, I traveled to Calgary for 2 days, and was in Calgary to visit some of the companies in Calgary that I wanted to get engaged with. I have been obviously on behalf of City and Economic Development, the whole aspect of the LNG Canada final investment decision that we've heard from Shell and their partners in Kitimat has been getting a lot more discussion and attention, and seems to be gaining a lot more publicity. It certainly was in evidence at UBCM last week at a number of events we attended. And so I wanted to get down and meet with a couple of the companies that are especially important to us, I think, in the upstream as well as those downstream partners, and that being the Encana Mitsubishi partnership with Mitsubishi, partnered with Encana up here on their development, as well as partnered with LNG Canada on the LNG Canada facility. They have a 20% stake in that, and so I got an opportunity to meet with the Mitsubishi folks and make contact with one of their executive vice presidents at the rodeo when he was here, and so I took the opportunity to go down and meet with them. I ended up with about 7 of them in the boardroom. Man, do they ever want to meet with you? And so I had the chair, the CEO, the executive vice president of petroleum, vice president of environmental, vice president of LNG Canada, their legal representative. There's about 8 of them in there, and it was very, very good in terms of the strength that they see and their partnership both with upstream here with Encana, as well as they're excited about the downstream, and talking about some of the development that will come and will occur when that final investment decision is made for us specifically in this region will be really strong. Met with Verizon as well, the midstream processors, because those 3 plants now that were built by Encana, the Sunrise, Saturn, and Tower facilities are all under almost 2 of them are completed and are in operation now. The 3rd one will be hopefully within the next month. They've hired 40 or 50 directly power engineers. That'll be the first wave of folks that are hired. Those are permanent long-term jobs that are created for our community. They are hired, and they are the indication was that they would be required to live in Dawson Creek or Fort St. John if they're working for them. They didn't want them traveling back and forth or not having the reliability of them having in our community. I wanted to get to Verizon because I believe with LNG Canada, Verizon and Encana, and now Verizon being bought out by Pembina, will have a more significant role in our region and our community. And so had a really great conversation with them. Met with Encana again met with Fluor. Fluor were the engineering firm that had the lead role in the engineering and design of these 3 facilities. And again, I think they're a really important company for us in terms of the development of this industry in the future, because the more those facilities get built, and they require these guys to have the engineering expertise, and these guys that have built these ones. So anyway, so I had 2.5, no I didn't, I had 1.5 days of some real busy, very engaging discussion, and so it was a good day and a half. And I'm going to jump to item number 9, because I had the opportunity to take the initial launch of the Integra Air flight to Calgary. Hour and 40 minutes, and you're there, and it's an unsecure flight to an unsecure airport, so you don't have to clear security, so you can be there 15-20 minutes ahead of the flight and get on the flight and fly home. So it's not an hour or an hour and a half ahead of the flight to clear security and all of that stuff. And so it's was very, very good. I flew home on Wednesday morning, yeah, it's a great addition, and it's going to be a great addition. And I know I talked to the industry guys about it, and they're very excited about having this direct flight into our community. The ARC guys, when I told them we had launched it, and I talked to the local superintendent of ARC Resources here, they indicated that day they had flown 8 people into Grand Prairie that were all directly coming to Dawson Creek. So they see the benefit of it, and they're very excited about us having this flight. And so really, hats off to Integra for making the commitment into our community and having a flight available for our residents and business folks. Somebody said it's pretty expensive. It was over $600, and I did a comparison of flying WestJet out of Grand Prairie to Calgary. It was $555 return the day I priced it out. You pay parking at $8 or $9 a day in Grand Prairie. You pay $25 a day, $25 each leg for baggage fees. You got your fuel on top of that, so you're probably another $100 on top of your ticket price to go to fly out of another airport where you're paying baggage fees and parking and fuel to get there. So it's very, very close in terms of the price. Don't just price out the price of the ticket. There's some other stuff in there. Plus, driving home in the middle of the night at 10:30 or 11 or 12 o'clock at night on a wintry evening, our safest day is when people aren't behind a windshield, when they can fly from home. So anyway, it was really good, and had a great 2 days in Calgary, and really, really loved the fact that I flew home on Wednesday morning in time to get to the Business to Business Expo, which is item 5 on the agenda. And that was another second year 2 of our B2B Expo with our business community, put on by Community Futures and in partnership with the Canada Event Center, and the staff did a great job. It was really, really well done. I thought the number of the sessions, sat on a panel with the mayors and the electoral area directors for the South Piece, and then had the real pleasure to meet Manjeet Minhas, who was the beer baroness on the Dragon's Den, and she was there as a guest speaker and the keynote speaker for the event. She was really, found her very engaging. She was quite a humble lady in terms of giving all of her business success, and really came across that way. But everybody I know that was there really enjoyed having the opportunity to engage with her and listen to her and hear her story about how she built that business empire, her and her brother. And just very, very interesting. And hats off and kudos to Community Futures for, again, putting this together. And I think there was probably 100 people, it looked like, approximately registered, I'm guessing. Very well done. Just before we headed to, sorry?
I think there was more than that.
No, it could have been. Just before we headed out to UBCM on last Sunday, the Métis Nation of British Columbia hosted their annual general meeting at the Canada Event Center for their AGM. It's the first time they've hosted it outside, I think, in a long time anyway, outside of Vancouver. We heard that there was a couple hundred delegates in town, so the hotels, again, feel that economic impact of hosting a conference, a convention in the community. The people that were there raved, honestly, about how good the Canada Event Center folks were in putting that conference on, and they said, one of the comments were, the people in Richmond are going to have to step up their game to match what these guys have done for us. Councillor McFadden and I flew out on Sunday on Central Mountain Air to Vancouver to UBCM, and they had to bring in a bigger plane. They had to bring in a Dash 8 on Sunday to accommodate all the people that were flying back from the Métis Nation of British Columbia annual general meeting. And so there's kind of that indication, right, of us stepping up and trying to find ways to find those events, those conferences that can help build and support our community. And there's another side tangible benefit of it, that the much larger plane come into Dawson Creek to accommodate, and the airport was full. There was a ton of people waiting to get out, and all of them raved about the event, this community, and how welcoming and what a great job was done in hosting the AGM. I'll slow down just a bit. Does anybody have any questions? Sorry, I should have done that on Calgary or anything else so far.
Okay.
The Thursday or Friday before I can't remember what day, we hosted the Peterbilt, folks had their grand opening of their facility. And so there's another new business in the community. They got, I think, upwards of going to have 15 or 20 people working for them. They're trying like crazy. They got 4 or 5 mechanics working right now, and they're trying to find another 4 or 5. Business has been really strong for them already. They've been very pleased with the response they're getting from the transportation sector here and all of the folks that are engaging with them. But there's another example for us in terms of how small business is what builds community and supports community. We had the real pleasure of welcoming Mr. Jimmy Patterson, who's the owner of Peterbilt franchise across BC, I guess. So Mr. Patterson flew in on his plane. It was probably bigger than the Dash 8 me and Mr. McFadden went out on. It was quite a plane. But he was really engaging, and we had a great conversation with him. A fella had just bought a new truck, a new Peterbilt, and so he asked Mr. Patterson if he would sign the truck for him. So I think he went in and signed the dash or the door or something. Probably smart, right? Because there'll be very few that will have the Jimmy Patterson original signature on the dash. So might add to the resale value one day. Anyway, we had a great conversation with him. Really interested in northeastern BC and Dawson Creek. Wanted to go and look at the Save On Foods because his new store is going to be opening shortly, and he wanted to go have a look at that. I spent about 5 or 10 or 15 minutes with him talking about the city and what's going on, and as a result of that, he has asked me to come down to Vancouver and my next trip and do a presentation to him and his executive team because he wants to learn more about this sector that's going on up here, and so I've got that date set in the next couple of weeks that I'll be going down and doing a presentation to those fellas, and I think again there's an opportunity, an example of how the activity and the amount of attention that our community is getting and our city is getting, and how we can leverage that in so many ways. I attended the grand opening of my friend Tracy Hart's Here to Health Wellness Clinic grand opening a few weeks ago, and Tracy's a small business owner in the city. She's got a wellness center over on 103rd Avenue in about the 1100 block, I'm going to say, just over by across from B&T Ceramics and in that area, and got a great wellness center, and so it was a real pleasure to be able to go and help Tracy celebrate the opening of her small business in our community. And she's a great local resident, and really appreciate her commitment to the community and starting a small business. 10 last week we were at UBCM, and I think this was probably of 4 that I've been to the last 4 years. This was probably the most hectic I felt in terms of the amount of initiatives, activities, and engagements and meetings that we held and had. And we had 4 or 5 minister meetings, Minister of Health, Minister of Forest Lands, Natural Resources, Minister of Community, Minister of Tourism. We give a presentation to the Parliamentary Secretary of Sport along with Minister of Tourism for our U17. I had the opportunity, and I got into a meeting with the Premier on Wednesday, and did a presentation on Tuesday to the Small Mid-Sized Communities Forum on partnerships and community. I did about a 20-minute presentation to be able to talk about Dawson Creek, and was very good. Sat on a panel on Wednesday morning with the Minister of Energy, talking about the energy sector as it relates to the upstream. We just had a really attended a bunch of different receptions, and attended the LNG Canada reception on Monday night. Spent a ton of time with TransCanada on, again, on all that stuff they're talking about. Met with the new senior vice president of TransCanada, who was really, really good to meet her. And it was just a busy 4 days of meeting people and relationships and partnerships. And certainly, I think that's kind of what the more you do this, the more you realize how important relationships and partnerships are for us in building our community and how we move forward in such a proactive manner. And so it was very good. And for all of us trying to reach out to the new ministers now and the new government, we are building that relationship with the new government. And our role is to work with whoever the government is. We're really, as sitting in this room, we're non-political. We're there to work and build our community based on working with the government, whoever that is. And so it was very good to meet with all these new ministers and start to build that relationship. And the Premier made the commitment, he's coming up. Had a great conversation with the Minister of Health. Had a chance meeting with the Minister of Finance one night, and she's really engaged. So, you know, that's what it is. It's about building relationships and partnerships with people in government to help build our community and health and education and advanced education, social programs, housing, all that stuff. So it was a very good session, I thought, and found it very helpful and busy, and I was glad to get home.
Sports and U17, you missed that.
Well, we did give them, we didn't have specific meetings with them, but we wanted to make sure we took some jerseys with us to let them know how much we've appreciated the support from the provincial government on this U17 tournament and this hockey challenge. And the Premier made a comment that wondered where his jersey was, and I said, "You've got to come and get it." Right? What else am I going to say? Didn't have one for him, so that's all I had. So anyway, it was really good, and we had a great time. The one thing that I ended up doing just before I went down was helping kind of co-organize a meeting with Greyhound over their announcement that they're going to pull out their withdraw services from Northern BC, and so Minister of Transportation had called me along with a bunch of mayors in the north over about 2 weeks before the convention, and so I helped organize a meeting with her on Thursday afternoon. We've got some representation from the Northwest, the Interior, and the Northeast, and the Northern Rockies, just to talk about the withdrawal of the services, what the implications are, what we can do to move it forward. A minister was very engaged and offered the support of her folks to help us and move it forward. Councillor Wilbur was there as well with the role of the president of the North Central Local Government Association. And so anyway, we got some ideas in terms of we'll put some, make sure we get some input into that passenger transportation board, as well as we got a meeting, Mayor Hall from Prince George is working on a meeting with the vice president of Greyhound, and we'll start to coordinate some of the work on that. Councillor Roger?
Is there any chat about if there might be another company that's going to be filling that void if vacated?
Yeah, so that was kind of the conversation we had about it, right? In terms of if they move and if they leave, is that create an opportunity for somebody that may be able to bring in a model that might be a little more efficient, might be a little more cost effective, might provide a little bit better service? Because we did hear from some communities saying, look, we think they're doing this to get out, so they started putting their schedule, so you got to leave at 2 in the morning, right? Well, who's going to go at 2 in the morning? And so as a result of that, they lose passenger traffic, but they think there's some deliberacy to it. But anyway, so I think that might be the case, but we got to really pound this, because this whole issue of, for some people in the rural, remote areas and the isolated areas living along the highway and Highway 16 and Highway of Tears, there's some real need for having transportation connectivity for those people, because that's the only thing they have is that bus, right? So anyway, we're going to do some work on it, and Mayor Hall and I kind of agreed to help take the lead on it, and that's what we did. That's it for me. Councillor Parslow?
Busy.
Item 7.
Yes?
This is going to bother me, so I have to... Isn't Peterbilt spelled Peterbilt, all one word?
Yes. You're so picky.
I'm sorry.
Probably.
It is.
Well, I would, in correspondence with...
We'll ensure that it's the item has been identified appropriately, and the appropriate response is made to.
Well, I hate to offend Jimmy Madison, given all the good work you've done.
Yeah, exactly. Councillor Wilbur?
I just wanted to add to number 2, the chainsaw carving, that Chetwynd actually still maps all of their carving. So in their tourism magazine that they hand out, every carving is in there. So now Dawson Creek has got another carving that's added to that whole walk that they have. So it's just encouraging tourists to go to all the communities to see the carvings.
It was really good. Yep.
Another facetious, is District of Chetwynd offering to maintain these things that they're giving us? Because they have a full-time person maintaining those in Chetwynd.
We'll set them up on
Be a
their...
nice gesture from the Chetwynd.
We'll set them up on their routine maintenance schedule and ensure that it's duly noted on
Councillor
their map.
Parslow, just say thank you.
You're welcome to go clean them anytime you like.
Oh, it's not that. It's far more involved than
So that's it for me. Any questions, any comments, anybody? Thank you. Brenda? Oh, sorry, yes. We have the request from the delegation of 6-6 to fly the rainbow flag at City Hall. What date is that?
I have October 20th to 22nd.
Okay. Councillor Wilbur?
But I would like to change it. I'd like to move that we fly the rainbow flag from October 16th to 23rd. So that's Monday to Monday and includes their weekend.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
fussy.
Okay. So you're making that by way of a motion?
Yes, I am.
Seconded, Councillor Schumann. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And sorry, there was another one, and I'm not... did you say there was another one I had?
The PCR Legacy Project.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you. So we need a letter of support for the Forest Legacy Project.
I'll move that we support.
Councillor Wilbur, seconded. Councillor Schumann, discussion. Councillor Javetkov.
Just the cost of it. Is there any cost to be borne by the city?
Duncan?
So, through your worship, part of this has to do with the request that came in front of council last year regarding the Memory Park. And some of this infrastructure is in the Ralph Thompson Memory Garden. My understanding and what I see here, that you can get a lot more information, but what I see here is it's part of the adoption program. It's volunteers that are looking after that. The only concern I see is some of this is private property. As that report wrapped up last time, you have kind of 3 different chunks of property, and you have some access concerns that came forward with that previous report also. This looks like it's funding, to fix the bridge and do some work in there, and it looks like it's relying on volunteers to do the maintenance, so access might be the only concern.
And that will be for them to deal with if they proceed with it.
Yeah, through your worship, my understanding is this is a group of organizations within the community that want to take it on, and that's how that adoption program works.
And the Rotary clubs were both there, and
My understanding from what they've provided.
Yeah.
So we'll do a little more work on that. But cost-wise, my understanding is it's these volunteers groups that are looking after it, and as I scanned through their presentation, they've identified the city's key role as project coordinator, tracking, promoting, implementing, coordination, and working with the groups to pull them together.
Thank you. Councillor Parslow?
Yes, I think there's a couple of other asks, so maybe I'm wrong here, but let's go to item 6.1. Teresa Simmons. It says request for supporting services.
Oh, so I
how
just
would we
want
gonna
to, we
act-
just got this motion
Oh,
here
I'm
right now, sorry. And then we'll,
Yeah, I missed that.
so we have a motion to support the letter of support, they're right. Further discussion? You ready for the question? All in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you. So, there wasn't a specific ask in her, but it was an information, and certainly there's some stuff coming back that I'll bring back to council, and so I'll bring some of that back into council.
No, just the heading of the item, in request for supporting services in our community.
And some of it's, I think it's going to be advocacy, working with the province and all that, right?
And that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And why I mentioned some of the announcements that the Premier had made is really we're not in the business of providing those services. That is not what we do. but our advocacy around that. And I mean, there were some opportunities mentioned at UBCM, and it shouldn't just be Smithers is the only place in northern BC that gets any action because they've got a MLA there.
Yeah.
And so we should be moving to try to get some of that action up here.
Sure. I'm like, if you guys want to.
Well, I'm just sensing, certainly I agree with what Councillor Schumann said, but I would like us to be a strong advocate for trying to get some of those services here. I mean, I've done lots of work with various First Nations health departments, and for years they've been asking for, I mean, the fentanyl crisis has put another dimension on all this, but prior to that, the need for accommodation, counselling and so on has been identified by, so you have established a good working relationship with Treaty 8 people and so on. I think we need, maybe, I'm not telling you what to do, but maybe through that liaison you've established, we need strong advocacy and get some of these things here, not just Smithers. We have a big problem here in the Northeast.
Well, and I got a meeting set right now with the Medical Advisory Committee at the hospital with the physicians in a week or two, and part of that discussion is exactly on this topic of the drug overdose, that issue. So maybe what I'll do is I'll bring that back to council. But if you guys want to make a motion that we move forward with some advocacy or work with the provincial government,
I would like to make such a motion, and Dave, you've established a good base there with our First Nations colleagues. Maybe if you can reach out to them and together we move forward as a. It's not just the city; it's the Métis Nation, the Saulteaux, you name it.
I second that.
Okay, so can we just clarify the motion just for...
That we engage in a strong advocacy program to support services identified by Teresa Simmons in her presentation.
Okay, all right, good. Seconded? And go ahead, Councillor Schumann.
From the presentation this morning, it sort of leaves a taste in your mouth like we don't have services in this community, and we certainly do have lots of great services. We had a delegation at our last meeting talking about the services that are available, and I can tell you it gets really hard once your child turns 18 to force them into those kind of services, and so I don't want anybody thinking that we don't have services here. We've got lots of great services and programming and things. It's just
when you're going through it, there just doesn't seem there's enough, right?
And we felt the same way, but there are a lot of things, and yeah, we are lacking the housing, and we are lacking the treatment beds, and we are lacking all of those things, and we should be pushing hard to get some of that action here.
Healthy community, quality of life. That's part of the stuff we talk about, right? So, Councillor Javecka?
I guess there's two aspects to the fentanyl issues, and that's through medication and through drug addiction. And, it's a worry to all of us, whether we've got kids at that age or grandkids. I'm just wondering, like, the services that they're talking about are services for young people that are already addicted or, going down that path. I'm just wondering about the prevention stuff. And it just came to mind that, a lot of this drug business is peer pressure. And at the high school level or even, I don't know how young these people are getting involved, but are there any groups established in either the school system, or you might know, Mark, to sort of counteract that peer pressure aspect of getting involved with drugs?
So I'll tell you something that was really disturbing to me when I met with Teresa, and there was another lady from Grand Prairie who's very involved in the Grand Prairie and the drug activities, I guess if I can use that term, because her daughter was very badly addicted, 17, 18, 19, on the streets. But she said, honestly, this now isn't This is going into the kids in elementary school. This is hitting kids at 9, 10, 11 years old. And that was, like, that's what knocked me out is I got grandkids in that age group. And that just kills me that that could be the case. So that's why I got some things that I want to deal with, because I think we need to go into this education component. We need to find some ways to help people that are either directly addicted or families, and working with our RCMP to help in that regard. This is a big topic, and I couldn't believe it when how badly they were talking about this fentanyl is. And we heard it that day from the paramedic who was saying, you know, it's a chocolate chip, right? You either get one that's got an overdose that's going to kill you, or you get one in it that's got nothing. And so it's a big worry. Well, Mark?
Yeah,
Councillor Rogers?
it's also disturbing because when I was a kid, it was say no to drugs. Everybody was always say no to drugs. Now they're saying, if you're going to do drugs, do them with a friend. Are you kidding me? Like,
harm reduction is a very important aspect of all of this.
but you went from saying no to now you're saying if you're going to, you got to do it with somebody, which, you know, I guess is important to do if you're gonna be doing drugs. But part of it, like you talk about, well, we've had the problem with marijuana laced cookies in schools in Dawson Creek as well. So, you know, what's going to happen with all the edibles that are coming in as well? Like, I can only.
Big conversations.
It's not good. It's a huge conversation.
This is a big
conversations at UBCM around that whole business too.
So we'll take it on. Like I got this hit me home when I met with Teresa.
Oh, yeah.
This girl from Grand Prairie. My babies live in Grand Prairie, and they're saying kids 9, 10, 11 years old. Well, that's my babies, right? That's somebody's babies.
But one of the services they referenced were education services.
Yeah.
Which prevention's better than, you know, what is it? An ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure. Yeah. So I mean, but she did address the need for education. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take it forward.
The other one, was there and I may apologize for this, because I may have missed something. Item 6.3, what was?
We got to vote on this one first. You just made a
sorry.
motion. You're just going ahead.
There's just
got someplace to go
there today.
Well, both guys.
You ready for the question on that one? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
So was there an asked in 6.3?
Nikki Hedges.
I thought she did ask something about staff.
Oh, she gave it to Duncan, and
Okay.
and that's something that administration will go through with the union, I'm assuming.
Through your worship, we'll just make it available.
Yeah.
People can take one if they like.
Yeah. Thank you.
Your worship,
Councillor Rogers?
if I may, I'm going to kick myself if I don't say something about 6.6 with the rainbow flag. I don't want to have any regrets by not saying something. There will be people in this community that say that we shouldn't be flying the rainbow flag, and the reason you're saying that is the reason why we are, my opinion, is the reason we have to fly that flag is because of the things that had happened recently in the paper and some of the attitudes from people that are in this community. I really strongly feel that that is the main reason why this has to get done.
Absolutely.
Okay. I feel better now. Thank you.
Thank you. So that's it for mayor's business. Item 10, diary.
Finally.
Diary, anything? No?
Deputy, your worship.
Residential Development Committee. Consent calendar.
So moved.
Moved, seconded. Councillor Bart Rogers. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Strategic priorities.
Deputy, your worship.
Question and answer period. Media question. Kendall, nothing? Nice to see you here today. Recess to closed, and we need a resolution to move to closed, please.
So moved.
Councillor Parslow, Rogers, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. So we'll take a 5 or 7 minute break. Item of business is a correspondence, and we have item 5.4. We have a letter from Destination Think regarding requests for proposals. Councillor Schumann.
I'd like to move that item for information.
Thank you. Seconded, Councillor Rogers. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Brenda, anything else from administration? Are we done?
We done.
We really are done.
That is 6
Thank you guys so much. That was a full day, but a really great day. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Rogers, Wilbur, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you.
Oh, no, only 5 and